Now at 9, a local blood bank is encouraging donations during National Blood Donor Month. Plus, we'll meet a Pittsburgh man who is thriving 10 years after nearly freezing to death and losing several limbs.
President Biden hitting Donald Trump hard in his first campaign address of 2024. I'm Caroline Shively in Washington. I'll have that story coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
This is KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities investigate a shooting today in Miami, Oklahoma. Police say one person is detained and one person is dead. It happened in the area of 2nd Street and H Street Northwest around 3 p.m. The area had been blocked off to traffic, but authorities say there is no continued threat to the community. You can find more details as they become available on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. A jury in Cherokee County, Kansas found a Columbus man guilty of child sex crimes. 38-year-old Brian Stewart was accused of multiple incidents of sexually assaulting children in 2016. Yesterday, the jury found him guilty of rape and 5 counts of aggravated indecent liberties with a child. Stewart will be sentenced on March 8th. Well, Chloe Arroyo joins us with a first look at your forecast.
Well, it's been a very snowy day for a lot of us folks, especially in southeastern Kansas. But here's what we're tracking right now. Live look at some isolated snow showers here and there. Now our roads have cleared up for further southeastern Kansas right over here. But here's what we're really looking at are these further northeast or northwestern roads where the pavement is a little on the wet side. Now as these temperatures begin to decrease, they're going to slowly but surely get into that below freezing range where that wet pavement could freeze over and make those roads a little more slick. So that's what we're tracking right now. Upper 30s, lower 40s right now, but will slowly start to decrease. Now coming up in a bit, we're going to talk about the snow for Monday and Tuesday, as well as our next system a week from today, Friday, January 12th. And then a cold blast next week. I'll have all the details coming up.
All right, thanks, Chloe. Well, tomorrow marks 10 years to the date when a near-fatal accident changed one man's life forever. In the early morning hours of January 6, 2014, the car Colter Steffens was riding in swerved into a ditch west of Pittsburgh. Soaking wet in sub-zero temps, Steffens trekked through the snow in search of help. He walked, and when his legs stopped working, crawled until he reached the nearest house. The homeowner's discovery marked the turning point that saved Steffens' life.
I'm just glad he showed up. Like, if he wouldn't have showed up, I wouldn't be here. I know that much. If he wouldn't have called the police or anything of that matter. I do remember him like help chiseling me off the ground and throwing me on his bar table. I remember a bar table. I do remember that, and him throwing me up there, and they were throwing blankets on me.
Steffens lost both lower legs and his right hand, but what emerged is a story of unwavering resilience. And later in the newscast, Steffens talks about that fateful night, the harrowing moments that followed, and how through music he was able to transform tragedy into triumph. The Joplin Area Transportation Study Organization is seeking comments during a 7-day public comment period for amendments to the 2022-2025 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. The proposed TIP amendment includes 22 modified projects and 4 new projects. The public comment period for this amendment begins at 8 a.m. Monday, January 8th. For more information, you can head over to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, today, Kansas representatives had a chance to talk to the public about everything from electric rates to eminent domain before heading back to the Capitol. PSU's President Dan Shipp said the event served as a way to stress the role of teamwork.
I appreciated hearing the comments from all various representatives. I wish they would have maybe been a bit more specific with the particular plans that they were going to advocate for, particularly when it came to the issues like Medicaid expansion and child care. They seemed very non-committal, and they kept it pretty vague.
The event was held at the PSU Wilkinson Alumni Center. Well, the new year is bringing a flurry of new attacks from President Biden against his chief rival, former President Trump. At a speech in Pennsylvania Friday, the president spoke about the stakes on the eve of the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riot. For his part, Trump is clearly not taking Iowa for granted, speaking in the Hawkeye State tonight, despite his huge lead over the GOP field. Fox's Caroline Shively reports from Washington.
President Biden delivered his first campaign speech of 2024 Friday afternoon, and he didn't hold back.
January 6th, a date forever shared in our memory because of Donald Trump's lies. They died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was.
Before the event, the president and first lady participated in a wreath laying at nearby Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, where George Washington mobilized Revolutionary War troops. The location was chosen carefully, meant to contrast Washington's impact on democracy versus Mr. Trump's.
The common thread of all of these speeches is going to be that Donald Trump and MAGA pose an existential danger to the United States.
In addition to hitting the campaign trail, President Biden is also hitting the airwaves, with $500,000 worth of ads running in 7 battleground states starting this weekend.
I put Iowa first.
While the Biden campaign focuses on the general election, Mr. Trump is focusing on Iowa. He's holding 2 campaign events there Friday, even though he leads his GOP rivals in national polls by more than 50 points.
The numbers are striking at this point in time. Trump is clearly the front runner, independent of the state you look at.
Mr. Trump has 2 more campaign stops in Iowa this weekend ahead of the January 15th caucuses. On Monday, President Biden will be in the early primary state of South Carolina. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Well, hoax bomb threats were made against government buildings in several states for a second day in a row yesterday. Officials say buildings in Arkansas, Maine, Mississippi, Montana, and Florida were all evacuated as a result of the threats. The buildings were searched and nothing found. The threats come one day after Capitol proceedings in several states were interrupted following a series of threats. No states have reported finding any suspicious packages or items in those buildings either. Well, after several years of concerningly high crime rates in the U.S., the numbers are finally dropping. The FBI reports homicides decreased by more than 6% nationwide between 2021 and 2022, with problem cities like Baltimore, Detroit, and Sacramento seeing significantly fewer murders. The latest FBI data shows robberies and burglaries, aggravated assault, and property crimes dropped as well. Well, coming up, the unemployment rate remains low.
What the hotter than expected jobs report means for inflation. I'm Edward Lawrence at the White House. That story coming up.
January is National Blood Donor Month, so a local blood bank is asking for people to give. According to the Association for Blood Donor Professionals, only 3% of Americans currently donate blood, despite 65% of the population eligible to do so. Locally, the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks says January can be a challenging month for them. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has their story.
Every 56 days over the last 4 years, Clayton Davidson does the same thing. He sits in the chair, extends his arm, and gives a little bit of life to those who need it.
It's something we can do to help others that doesn't cost us anything. It's just a real need in the area, and so why not?
He was one of the 200 donations the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks need every day to meet the need of more than 45 hospitals in the area. For the organization, the month of January can be specifically challenging.
You never know what the winter weather might do, and if it snows a lot of our blood drives do get canceled. The holidays play effect. People are busy, they've been worn out, flu and illness, so if people are sick, they can't donate.
Around the holidays, they had to have an extra push just to get enough blood to make it through until January, so we could always give more blood.
In 2023, more than 29,000 donors supported the initiative. Dwayne Berbauer also was one of them.
It's just a thing to do. I mean, it's so effortless. The value of that blood is, it's endless. Whether it's a chronic disease or a car accident or whatever, it's just, there's always a need for blood.
A need that can become part of one's New Year's resolution. In Pineville, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
In 2023, the Community Blood Center of the Ozarks provided more than 60,000 units of blood to area hospitals. Labette Health names Community Blood Center of the Ozarks as the exclusive provider of blood, plasma, and platelets. This designation expands CBCO's role as the sole provider to patients at 45 area hospitals, including 44 institutions across Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, and Southeast Kansas. CBCO says it will begin scheduling local blood drives as part of its initiative to bolster the region's blood supply. The contract went into effect January 1st. Well, today, Freeman Health celebrated more than 100 nurses. The health provider nominates nurses each month for its Daisy Award. Nurses can be nominated by anyone who experiences or observes extraordinary compassionate care provided by a Freeman nurse, either from a fellow employee or patient. For the staff at Freeman, the recognition is for a real labor of love. Well, Chloe is next with a complete look at the forecast. And later, it's day 2 of the Kaminsky Classic in Joplin. We'll have highlights from today's action.
Well, it was a very winter day in terms of snowfall. And if you enjoyed that, I have good news for you. We are nowhere near done with chances for snow heading into the rest of the week. But for now, here's a look at our Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just west of Seneca, Missouri. A clear parking lot right now. Earlier today, we had some snowfall, and that has since melted because those temperatures were a little above freezing, upper 30s, lower 40s for the majority of us. Here's a look at our current storm tracker. We've got a couple of snow showers here and there. It's very light, so you're probably only seeing a couple flurries here and there in our further northwestern counties. Now, anything, if at all, if it reaches to the ground, it's not going to last very long because our temperatures, not by much, are slightly above freezing. But really what we're tracking and what I'm really looking at right now are these roads highlighted in green. They're wet pavement right now, but as we get into the later evening hours, our temperatures are going to dip down into that freezing range. Right now, we're just a hair above that, mid to upper 30s across the board. 37 for Pittsburgh, Joplin 39, as well as Neosho. Nevada, you're at 35, Iola at 33. So we're getting close to that freezing range, and you know what happens when we get to 32 degrees or below, that could refreeze over. So the roads could get a little slick here in the next couple of hours or so. Here's a look at your weekend forecast for tomorrow. We're not going to get not much warmer than what we are right now. 39 degrees for your high, 46 for Sunday. So we'll be just a hair warmer. We'll see a break on Sunday more than anything from that winter weather. But heading into Monday, this is where we're really going to see our first big storm system of the week. It'll be rain transitioning into snowfall. The separation between the rain and the snow will be the temperature right there. So if you're below freezing at that point, it's going to turn into snow. So that is that fine line right there that we're really tracking as it pushes off to the east. It'll eventually all form into snow for our area, and we can see quite a bit of accumulation for that. So we're still pretty far out, but a good estimation, we'll see some good accumulation with this snow system. And then we get into Friday, we'll see round 2. Once again, you know the drill, rain transitioning into snowfall as it pushes off to the east. So this one is a lot further out, so we're still tracking that one, so that could change a little bit more than the one on Monday and Tuesday. That one's a little more solidified than the other. So our cold temperatures heading into next week, Friday, Saturday, and even beyond that, we're going to see really frigid temperatures. We have an Arctic blast pushing down from the north, and that's really going to bring us down to cold temperatures. So we're really going to be wishing for these 40-degree highs after a while. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast. We've got highs in the 40s and even in the 30s, a possible alert day on Tuesday. So keep Monday and Tuesday in mind, as well as Friday and Saturday.
A lot to keep an eye on this weekend for sure.
Very much, yes.
All right, thanks, Chloe. Of course. Well, folks in Mount Vernon, Missouri today had the chance to check out some barrel racing with a twist. Rat Pack Productions hosted the Masquerade Barrel Race event. It started with some practice runs before the main event brought out some of the area's top riders.
We're having a masquerade ball at the barrel race, and I don't know how these people wore these most of the time because those were awful. But just coming out to have fun, we wanted to throw on a fun, theme. It's cold. What can we do to kind of, spruce things up? So we thought, well, a masquerade would be a good idea. You can still wear your warm hat, but have a little bit of fun. So we're having a barrel race and just kind of throwing that theme in there.
The races were held at the Longhorn Arena on Highway M in Mount Vernon. Well, coming up, a community looking for answers.
Police are trying to figure out a motive for a mass shooting at an Iowa high school. I'm Garrett Tenney in Des Moines, Iowa, with that story coming up.
Employers hired at a solid pace in December, capping a year of steady gains for a job market. Fox Business correspondent Edward Lawrence has more.
The last time the economy created more than 216,000 jobs, September of 2023. The unemployment rate remained under 4% every month last year. In a statement, President Joe Biden says the report confirms 2023 was a good year for workers, adding, "I know that some prices are still too high for too many Americans, and I am doing everything in my power to lower everyday costs for hardworking Americans." In the report, the government sector created the second most jobs in December. Some economists say this is not sustainable.
I think we've had now for the last year or two, the government kind of carrying the economy on its shoulders. That cannot persist.
In an interview, the acting labor secretary never answered those concerns when pressed. But is it sustainable for government jobs to be one of the leading sectors?
Well, I mean, the question that has been asked all year long was, is this growth sustainable? And we certainly saw from 2022 to 2023, right? The average number went down significantly into a more sustainable figure.
This report may give the Federal Reserve pause about cutting rates as early as March. Average hourly wages up 4.1% over the past 12 months. The hot jobs report and wage pressures could push inflation.
The bottom 20% are really hurting, and then the top 20% are still prospering. So, yeah, it's a very uneven economy, and obviously that's going to have profound political ramifications.
And people will vote on kitchen table issues in the next election, which is why you see President Biden cheering on hotter than expected jobs reports. At the White House, Edward Lawrence, Fox Business.
Up next, we learn how you can send your name to the moon aboard a NASA rover. You can go to the moon without even leaving your home. NASA is inviting members of the public to send their names to the moon aboard its first ever robotic lunar rover called Viper. The rover will be heading to the moon's south pole, where it will study the water and environment. You have until March 15th to submit your name to NASA's website, where you'll also be able to download a boarding pass featuring your name. That's kind of cool. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports is coming your way. Police in Iowa search for a motive in yesterday's deadly school shooting. Plus, the former Paralympian Oscar Pistorius is released from prison 9 years after he's convicted of murder.
You're watching the 4 States Most Watched News.
This is KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A 6th grade student is dead and several others injured after a student opened fire on an Iowa high school. Police are now trying to figure out a motive. Fox News correspondent Garrett Tenney has more details from Des Moines.
Oh God, our help in ages past.
A vigil held Thursday night in the small town of Perry, Iowa, hours after a 17-year-old student opened fire on his high school, killing a 6th grader and injuring several others, including the school's principal, before turning a gun on himself and taking his own life. The community is now trying to make sense of this tragedy.
I was actually on my way to work, and I got a call from my coworker stating that she said not to come to work because there has been a shooting and that we are evacuating.
As investigators search for a motive, police say they are combing through social media posts the suspect made around the time of the shooting. They are also speaking with those close to him, including friends who say the 17-year-old and his younger sister had been bullied.
We tried to be there when he needed us, which clearly we weren't there for him enough.
Was it a smart idea to shoot up the school? No. God, no. And I am mad at him for that.
Authorities say the shooter was armed with a pump-action shotgun, a small caliber handgun, and an improvised explosive device that was rendered safe by first responders. In the wake of the shooting, the White House now calling on Congress for more gun legislation.
When will enough be enough?
Our students and teachers deserve to know that their schools are safe spaces and to focus on learning, not duck and cover drills.
Classes are canceled today in Perry, but counseling services will be available for anyone in the community. In Des Moines, Iowa, I'm Garrett Tenney, Fox News.
Convicted murderer Oscar Pistorius was released on parole this morning after serving nearly 9 years in prison. The former South African Paralympic sprinter was convicted of shooting his girlfriend 4 times through the bathroom door of his house in 2013. The athlete, known as the Blade Runner for his carbon fiber prosthetic legs, denied killing her in a fit of anger, saying he had mistaken her for an intruder. Well, a bit later, we'll meet a Pittsburgh man who is thriving 10 years after nearly freezing to death and losing several limbs.
Well, the snow is not over yet. We're in for a relatively active week in terms of winter weather. We'll get into the whole breakdown here in just a second. But first, here's a look at your Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just west of Seneca, Missouri. Really a clear parking lot right now. Wasn't the case earlier. We had that snowfall and we still have remnants of that snowfall. A couple snow showers here and there. A couple showers in farther northeastern Oklahoma. That's because they're well above freezing right now. Now, with these snow showers, really nothing in terms of accumulation will occur. We're still sitting above freezing at that point. However, the roads, this is what we're looking at. The blues, I'm not as worried about. The greens, I'm still keeping an eye on, and make sure you are keeping an eye on this as well because the pavement is wet. But as we get into the evening hours, our temperatures are going to reach below freezing for a lot of us. And so a lot of that could freeze over overnight. So our roads could get a little slushy, if not slick, heading into tonight. So keep that in mind if you have those plans going out and about. Temperatures right now into the mid to upper 30s, 39 for Joplin, 38 Neosho, Anderson, and Grove at 41. Parsons and Chanute, you're at 36 right now, so we're starting to decrease heading into the rest of the evening. Now, we're not going to warm up much from there. Heading into tomorrow, we're only reaching 39 degrees for your high on Saturday. Sunday, we'll warm up a little bit more, but not by much, with a high of 46 on Sunday. We'll have a pretty calm Sunday. Then Monday and Tuesday is when we're going to start to see all of that action unfold. So here's a look at that. We'll see some rain transitioning into snow. Here's Monday evening. See that line between, that fine line between snow and rain? That's going to be heavily dependent on our air temperatures. So keeping an eye on that. But by Tuesday morning, pretty much all of us will be in that freezing, if not below freezing range, which will be suitable for not only snowfall, but good snow accumulation. So that's going to continue into Tuesday afternoon, into Tuesday evening, Wednesday, Thursday, looking pretty calm. Heading into Friday morning, we're going to see a similar setup. We'll see rainfall transitioning into snow, pushing off to the east. But notice these temperatures, they're going to be a whole lot colder heading into next weekend. So keep that in mind. We have quite the Arctic blast. Here's a look at that. Frigid temperatures pushing down from the north, pushing down to the south. That's quite the Arctic blast that we'll continue to see Saturday, even into Sunday. We're going to see those temperatures dip down a good 10 to 20 degrees to colder than what we're seeing right now in terms of our highs and low temperatures. Here's a look at the rest of your week. A possible alert day on Tuesday. We're still keeping an eye on that, so put Monday and Tuesday in your calendars for winter weather, as well as next Friday and even Saturday morning.
The one coming up early next week sounds like it could be a big deal. So
it sounds like it, yes.
Keeping an eye on that. All right, thanks, Chloe.
Of course.
Well, coming up in sports, the final minute with Mitch for the NFL regular season. Plus, Girard basketball faces Columbus. John Dales has those highlights and much more up next.
Day 2 of the Kaminsky Classic is here. Yesterday afternoon, Webb City began the tournament in an instant classic against William Chrisman. The Cardinals came back from 13 down to force overtime, but ultimately lost there. Rivalry game in the second round of the Kaminsky Classic. Carl Junction faces Webb City. Early first quarter, Baron Duda steps into a 3. That had put the Cardinals up by 3. We hear a lot more from him. Still in the first, Bulldogs trailing by 6. Cooper Vides connects from long range in the corner. Then second quarter, CJ down 8. Wyatt McAfee following his own miss and finishes through the traffic down low. Just before halftime now, and it's Duda again. This time in the corner for 3. That stretches the lead up to 11. Then foot on the line as he steps back and nails the jumper. He finishes the game with a game-high 30 points. Cards run away with it in the second half. Eli Pace gets an and 1. Webb City beats CJ 65-49. Cardinals will play in the 5th place game tomorrow. Second game of the afternoon, Neosho taking on the host, Joplin. Eagles take an early 5-0 lead. Collis Jones adds to it in the low post with that bucket. It's a 10-2 Joplin lead. Final seconds of the first quarter, and Brecken Green stretches that to double digits now, 12-2 after he hits the fadeaway. The Wildcats couldn't buy a bucket in the early going. Midway through the second quarter, Tyrone Harris steps into a 3. That helps things out, makes it 14-7. This game is all Eagles though. Collis Jones again, this time from 3. Joplin's lead back to double digits right before halftime. Eagles up 12. Check this out. First shot doesn't fall, neither does the second. Ball's loose on the floor. How about a third chance opportunity? No. Fourth chance. Finally, Hobbs Gooch gets to fall plus the foul. Joplin breezes past Neosho 55-33. Eagles will play Webb City tomorrow. And a big night of basketball across southeast Kansas as well, including a couple CNC teams playing their first games of the new year. Girard girls basketball tonight on the road. They're facing the Columbus Titans. Lady Trojans winners in 3 of their last 4. Columbus, though, gets the first points of the night from Macy Allison down low. Girard quick with the response. Hayden Buckley left open in the corner from 3. She hits it. Trojans would lead by 6 at the end of the first quarter. Off the inbounds play, Kylie David beats the buzzer. That puts Girard up 18-6. Girard led by 14 going into halftime. Second half now, Katie Mooney finds an open Riley Johnson, but it only counts for 2. Her foot was on the line. Then Girard starts to really take over. Hayden Buckley again gets the rebound off the miss, puts it back up and in with the hook shot. Next possession, Riley Brooks swishes a 3-pointer to put this one on ice. Girard goes on to beat Columbus tonight 43-22. Over to the boys game. Girard against Columbus, 2 CNC rivals playing for the first time in 2024. Early in the game, Columbus gets the offense started with a 3-point shot by Huck Hallam. Titans lead at 3-2. Later in the first, Ethan Brooks gets the steal. Nobody's there to stop him. On the other side, Girard goes up by 3. Final minutes of the first half now. Ranson Bourne going to take a mid-range jumper and make a mid-range jumper. Columbus goes into halftime trailing by 20. Opening play of the second half, Titans get a spark here from the freshman, Drake Lawrence. He drains the 3-ball. Later in the half, Girard's Aiden Troike drives to the basket, gets the friendly roll on the road. Still in the second half, Ranson Bourne again, getting separation. He hits a 3, this time from the top of the key. All Trojans tonight on both levels. Girard beats Columbus 58-32. Over to the NFL. This weekend is the final week of the regular season. If you've been thinking the Chiefs' opponents have seemed a little bit more prepared than they have, you're not alone. More on that in the Week 18 Minute with Mitch.
I saw the tweet just after the schedule release in May, and I thought, yeah, it's going to be tough, and then I dismissed the thought until now. Warren Sharp, an NFL analyst, wrote, from Week 12 of the season through Week 17, the Chiefs will have less rest than their opponent for 6 consecutive weeks. I would add that the opposing team in December had more days to prepare as well. The Packers had 10 days, the Bills had 2 weeks, the Patriots had 9 days, the Raiders had 11 days, and the Bengals had 9 days to get ready for the Chiefs. According to Sharp, this hasn't happened in the NFL in 35 years. I get it. All the networks want the hottest teams and the best slots. But the NFL has got to be more diligent to make sure the Chiefs or any team is not scheduled into a disadvantage on this Minute with Mitch. The Minute with Mitch is brought to you by Como Jewelry. Every day's game day, Como Jewelry, Pittsburgh, Joplin.
Back to Southeast Kansas basketball, though. I mentioned earlier tonight a big game going on in Labette County. Fort Scott, boys and girls entering the night undefeated. Each of them pushed in the game by the Grizzlies. Each of them win, though. So Fort Scott heads into this Tuesday where they go to Pittsburgh. Both of them still undefeated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's an interesting thing that Mitch was talking about. In your professional opinion, though, do you think that the Chiefs have handled that disadvantage well?
Yeah, all things considered, they get a win last week. They lock up the 3 seed. They lock up an 8th straight division title. You can't ask for too much more than that.
All right. Thanks, John. Back with more news after this. This weekend marks the anniversary of a near-fatal accident that changed one Southeast Kansas musician's life forever. 10 years ago on a snowy January night, Colter Steffens was forced to fight for his life. He lost both lower legs and his right hand, but what emerged was a story of unwavering resilience.
Slowly making the pace as I can. My eyes go blind, I cannot feel my hands. That part right there, I remember that distinctly. Like I remember that I'm slowly rolling, slowly going, but things are just stopping working all of a sudden, and like urgency sets in.
An urgency that nearly took Colter Steffens' life. 10 years later, the memory of that fateful night almost seems like yesterday. The Southeast Kansas musician later reliving his story through lyrics in a song titled "Which Way." His words set the scene for the early morning hours of January 6, 2014. It was snowing a lot, and temperatures were well below zero.
I do remember swerving into the ditch, all that, but after that I don't really remember much until I wake up and I have to start going to try to find a house.
Soaked from head to toe, Steffens set off in search of help. He walked, and when his legs gave out, crawled roughly a quarter of a mile from his car to this home. The homeowner found him curled up and frozen on his porch.
I'm just glad he showed up. If he wouldn't have showed up, I wouldn't be here. I know that much.
The accident took both of Steffens' lower legs and his right hand, but it didn't take his spirit.
I mean, you got all the cool horror movie guys all over here.
2 years into his recovery, Colter started dating his high school crush, Shayna.
He is very driven. So no matter how far the goal is, he's going to get there regardless. Nothing's going to stand in his way.
Colter and Shayna later married and now share 4 beautiful children.
Okay, so basically I'm using
Despite his own, Steffens has made a career of helping others with disabilities through RCIL. Steffens says the accident taught him how to be humble and how to fight through the negatives.
Of course, yeah. I feel angry a lot. It's much easier just to put that in the back of your minds, though. Anger's not going to get you anywhere.
He definitely keeps us all in the right direction.
Gene Frivoli met Steffens 6 years ago and now lays out the beats for Colter's lyrics in Rage Is My Rival.
The cold is finally taking the pain. I fall crawling, I just can't sustain.
Lyrics that tell a story.
His experience directly from the accident, or if it's just something else life throws at you.
And hopes for the future.
Oh, I want to play Carnegie Hall. I want an Emmy. I want to play at all the festivals and coliseums that I've dreamed of my whole life.
Well, Colter says he never got to personally thank the man who found him. He says he'd love to meet him and express his gratitude in person. If you want to read the complete lyrics to the song Which Way or hear more from the band, you can find links on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, coming up, we'll look at what's driving the comeback of board games across the country. Recently, lots of people have rekindled their love for board games. It's a craze hitting the entire country as sales of board games keep increasing. Fox's Lauren Clark has more.
At Snakes and Lattes in Tempe, siblings Ethan, Aiden, Sophie, and her boyfriend Jake
That's much better.
are playing a game of llama.
He likes Uno, so it's a game that's very similar to Uno.
And battling it out, Sophie isn't sorry to win.
All right, I'm going out. So now you cannot pick up new cards.
The group has always been fans of board games, but they started playing even more post-pandemic.
It's a really great way for us to all connect together physically, face to face.
Getting the clue that it was a great hobby to enjoy together.
Take time off the screen and socialize and get to know each other.
They aren't alone either. The post-pandemic boom giving board and card games new life. It's seen an increase in sales specifically in the past 2 years. And it's not monopoly money either. The industry raked in an estimated $3.39 billion in 2023, according to gaming publication Play Today. And with nearly 40% of Gen Zers finding board games enjoyable, there's not too much risk involved in their future, leading more games coming onto market. And the opening of places like Snakes and Lattes, where people can rent out games and enjoy a bite to eat. As for Aiden and his friends,
If we ever play this game again, we'll buy it.
it's a hobby they hope to have for years to come.
Play board games, it's really fun, and that we get to, be together, just spend time with the family, have fun, and just, enjoy each other's company.
Well, that's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're going to leave you with video of zebras at a safari park in Florida. Have a great night and an even better weekend.